Welcome to the dark, where softness cannot survive. Face the truth. There's no room for romance here. We're not looking for healing. We're looking for power. Before we go further, understand one thing clearly. Power here is not something you use to press down on anyone else. It is the ability to stand firm before yourself, when no one is clapping, no one is praising you, and no one is watching. It's the kind of strength only the seasoned understand, quiet, enduring, and with nothing to prove. Because at some point in life, you realize the most important promise isn't the one you make to other people. It's the promise you made to yourself. There is a version of you that is still asleep. An unawakened presence, buried deep in the shadow of your mind. This isn't the better you that shallow people keep pushing. This is the machine, cold, calculated down to the millisecond, and driven by ruthless consistency. This version runs on pure power logic, unblocked by doubt or the need to be liked. It's the version that has stripped off every layer of hypocrisy and romantic procrastination you've been clinging to. Its only goal is absolute efficiency. If you met this version today, you wouldn't recognize it. In fact, you tremble at its lack of sentiment and its ability to execute. Why? Because you're afraid of your own uncontrolled potential, the strength that would be unleashed the moment you stop negotiating with your emotions. And sometimes, the greatest fear isn't failure. The greatest fear is this: if I truly got serious, if I truly became unwavering, how different would my life be? Would I regret waiting so long? People listening at 60-70 often feel that question more deeply than anyone, because time is no longer an abstract concept. Time is something you feel in every morning you wake up. This is Machiavelli's principle. When kindness is ineffective, coldness becomes the supreme tool. Most people misunderstand discipline. They confuse it with social rituals or performative self-improvement, waking up at 5 de la mañana, eating clean, sweating in the gym. That isn't discipline. That's distraction. Those are small tricks to soothe the ego into believing they're progressing, while avoiding the decisions that are truly painful and truly transformative. They create rituals to cope with their fear of a greater failure. Real discipline is not a pleasant habit. What people call discipline is not some gentle routine you build in 21 days. It is a calculated act of violence meant to annihilate the weakness inside you. True discipline is a life or death shootout in which you must be the only victor. It's not negotiation, it's execution. You must stare straight at physical exhaustion, temporary emotional waves, and sweet excuses, the whispers of the Jungian shadow urging you back to safety, and you must bury them alive. That is the moment your ego declares absolute victory over the ID that demands instant gratification. But let me speak as someone who has lived through enough seasons. This doesn't mean you turn yourself into stone. It means you no longer let emotion drive the car. You still feel, but you don't let feeling decide. You may still have moments of weakness, but you don't let a moment become a lifetime. That is maturity, knowing where you are, and still taking one more step, even if it's small. Machiavelli didn't write to comfort saints. He wrote a manual for strategists, for those who understand that to hold power in a chaotic world, you are not allowed to be soft, you are not allowed to compromise with yourself. Because compromise is weakness, and weakness is a breach your opponent will exploit without mercy. Machiavelli understood psychological leverage. Predictability is a fatal vulnerability. When you become gentle, when your behavior becomes easy to forecast based on emotion, you hand others a map to your destruction. To become a ruler, you must stop being a person seeking comfort, and become a principle, a cold, immovable force of nature. When you reach this level of extreme self-control, other people's reactions shift from respect to a deep, uneasy tension. They feel a change in the air. This is uncertainty avoidance in psychology. They can classify you. They can find the formula to manipulate you, because every lever, praise, fatigue, temptation, stops working. They see someone who has ended all inner debates. Someone who has eliminated the deeply human need to justify mediocrity. And this is what terrifies them. The realization that you no longer bargain with yourself. If you can be that ruthless and disciplined with yourself, they begin to wonder, what might you be capable of doing to them? The complete disappearance of your manipulability, the total removal of every emotional gap, is the pure ST form of power you can possess. And right here, I want you to pause just for a bit, and ask yourself, how many times in your life have you negotiated with yourself, only to break the deal? How many times have you said tomorrow, next week, when things settle down? If you see yourself in that, you're not alone. But the real question is, do you still want to repeat it? The naked truth. Every power struggle is an inner battlefield before it becomes an outer one. You're here not because your body is tired. This is soul fatigue. You're being worn down by a kind of psychic entropy. The exhaustion comes from maintaining two versions of yourself. The version you want to become, the idealized self, and the weak version currently in control, the present self. This is cognitive dissonance at its most toxic. You hate making solemn promises to yourself in the morning only to shatter them before noon. Why? Because the craving for immediate pleasure keeps winning over long-term domination. That is a basic disrespect you're showing yourself. You watch others rise while you're trapped in the same eternal loop. Explosive motivation, followed by the inevitable collapse. That's the trap of ego depletion. Your willpower burns out too fast because you're still carrying too much emotional weight. You want something rougher, colder. You want to know how to forge an impenetrable mind. This isn't a gentle self-help course. This is calculated self-destruction. We are not going to heal. We are going to purify. For the ruler to truly rise, the cold Machiavellian part that calculates and focuses only on winning, we must perform shadow integration. We must destroy the weak, dependent, overly emotional part of you, the part ruled by fear. And if you've been listening this far, remember, purification does not mean hurting yourself. Purification means clearing out the habits that drag you down, the empty promises, the relationships that feed procrastination, and the old belief that it's too late. In fact, some people start over at 65 and live the next quince years with a clarity they never had 40 years earlier. Not because they became young again, but because they became more serious. The biggest psychological mistake you make every day is your desperate pursuit of approval. Being liked is not power. It's a vulnerability, a chain held by anyone who can deny you validation. True power is built when respect is earned through your capacity for discipline. Respect deep enough that it transforms into a primitive kind of fear. Fear of your absolute competence and your unpredictable self-control. The road to power is paved with sacrifice, specifically the sacrifice of facing and destroying what Carl Jung called the shadow, the bolt of desires, fears and weaknesses you refuse to admit. Most men are psychological slaves. They are chained not by iron but by dopamine jolts of instant gratification. They trade internal power for temporary comfort and shallow social acceptance. The moment you cut these chains, the moment you harvest the raw, dark energy of the shadow and force it to serve productive discipline, you become a sovereign. And right here, I want to open something up so you can interact with me, like a conversation between people who've lived far enough to know, life is not simple. Have you ever had a moment, just one moment, when you felt you no longer needed approval?
If so,
What changed you? Share it in the comments, even one sentence. Your story might become a small lamp for someone else lost inside themselves. Phase 1. The discipline of silence the ghost. Machiavelli said something famous, and it's the coldest truth about power. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few truly experience what you are. Comillas punto. Ordinary people expose everything. They broadcast their plans on social media. They announce their new era before they've completed even one serious day of work. Why? They crave external validation. This is the fatal weakness. They fall into the tension release effect. When you publicly declare a goal, you release the psychological energy needed to pursue it. You reward yourself before the race begins. You puncture the tire before the car moves. The shadows responds. You must do the opposite. You must become a ghost. True discipline demands silence. It demands darkness. When you keep talking about your goals, you're secretly begging the world for permission and approval. You're asking, is it okay if I become strong? Am I allowed to succeed? Comillas punto. Stop asking for permission. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who listens, observes, and says nothing. He accumulates information asymmetry. He knows more about you than you know about him. When you retreat into strategic silence, you create a vacuum. This makes others deeply uneasy. They start to panic because they can't control your story. They will project their own fears and insecurities onto you. They'll wonder, what is he planning? Why doesn't he need our attention anymore? This disappearance is the process of accumulating weight. When you reappear, your presence carries a different gravity. You don't have to tell people you changed. They feel it. The ghost's discipline frightens others. It reminds them of their own lack of focus. It points to a brutal reality. While they chase attention, you are quietly building power. Stop explaining yourself. Explanation is the language of the victim, the one who must justify their existence. The powerful do not defend their actions. They execute them. And in real life, this is sometimes simple. Talk less, post less, explain less, do a little more. You don't need the world to understand you. You only need to stop betraying yourself. Phase 2. EMAOTIONAL Alchemy. A disciplined man is not a soulless robot. He feels everything. He feels temptation pressing him back into bed. He feels the bitterness of rejection. He feels the terrible urge to quit. The difference is, he doesn't care. He treats them as worthless data, not commands. You cannot rely on passion. Passion is a flickering flame. This is hedonic adaptation. Positive emotion fades over time. You need something colder. You need duty. Duty is a rigid psychological structure that isn't affected by outside temperature. It is a harsh order you impose on yourself, the ability to act regardless of your internal conditions. Discipline is the art of acting against your emotional instincts. You take the heavy lid of "I don't want to" and turn it into the gold of the ruthless truth. I did it anyway. Comillas punto. If your opponent knows you only fight when you feel motivated, all they have to do is wait. But if you work harder when you're miserable, you become an unpredictable piece. You become immune to circumstances. You handle emotions like weather. You acknowledge, it's raining. But you don't cancel your mission because it's raining. To achieve this detachment, you must disable the most dangerous enemy, the inner negotiator. Your brain's survival mechanism wasn't designed for greatness. It was designed for comfort and energy conservation. Homeostasis. The brain always prioritizes immediate ease. This is why you must practice the seconds rule. When the alarm goes off, you have exactly 3 seconds. If you allow your brain to think about it for 4 seconds, it will activate its entire arsenal of lazy rationalizations. You must skip the negotiation step. 1, 2, 3. Move. Don't think. Thinking is the enemy of execution. The body must obey. When your inner state no longer determines your outer result, you are completely free. And real freedom sometimes begins with the smallest choices. Getting up when you want to stay down. Saying no when you want to be indulged. Finishing what must be done before asking, "Do I like it?" Those small things stack until they become a different person. Phase 3. weaponization. Gisolation. Any dependency is a weakness, a lever that can be used against you. Isolation is not the absence of others, it is freedom from needing them. Most people are terrified of being alone. They fill every quiet moment with noise, because their thoughts are haunting them. That is the shadow whispering a cold truth. You are wasting your potential. To reach frightening discipline, you must accept isolation. You must be willing to walk away from people who do not serve your mission. This is necessary social pruning. When you start rising, social gravity will try to pull you back. This is the crab mentality. They don't hate you, they fear you. Your success creates a mirror effect. Your growth is undeniable proof of their stagnation. They will attack. You've changed. You're obsessed. You're not fun anymore. Comillas. Punto. Good. You is the sedative of mediocrity. You must become comfortable with being the villain in their story. Let them call you cold. You simply have different standards. And you refuse to lower them. Isolation is the laboratory of great individuals. You need to schedule periods of full retreat. Monk mode. When you win that battle in the dark, you step back into the light, with a confidence that cannot be faked. Others will sense it. They sense a man who doesn't need them. And ironically, that is exactly what makes them want to follow you. The man who is comfortable alone is the only man not trying to take something from them. He is full. He has achieved psychological sovereignty. And at any age, isolation doesn't necessarily mean cutting everyone off. It means choosing the right people, the right place, the right time. It means keeping a quiet corner for yourself, so you can hear your own voice again, instead of living by the world's noise. When you have that quiet, you become kinder in a steadier way, not kind out of fear of offending, but kind because you can afford to be. Phase 4. The fear of unreadability. If you want real power, understand this. The logic of rule is not emotion, it is effectiveness. It is far safer to be feared than to be loved. When you are undisciplined, you are predictable. And predictability is a serious vulnerability. People know you will quit. Your emotional weaknesses become an open map for any manipulator. Become the glitch in the matrix. When you become disciplined, you are no longer an easily understood individual. You become a glitch in their matrix. You completely remove the possibility of predictable emotional reaction. Someone insults you. You don't get angry. You look at them. Hold an extended moment of silence. Then calmly return to your work. That absence of reaction, emotional stoicism, is terrifying to those who live off other people's emotional volatility. They face unpredictability, and it triggers intense cognitive dissonance. They can't label you. They can't profit from you. You are not a raging storm that dissipates. You must be a glacier. Slow. Silent. But crushing everything in its path. Kill the one who craves sympathy. You must commit a ruthless act inside yourself. Kill the part of you that craves sympathy. Stop venting about your problems. Stop seeking comfort. When you seek sympathy, you expose your wounds. You unintentionally show the world exactly where you can be harmed. Machiavelli would advise you, keep your wounds hidden. Stand tall. Face unreadable. Even if your world is burning, you cannot let them see you sweat. You are establishing a solid psychological frame. You are declaring to the world, through action, not words, I control everything, and in the end, you will comply. Comillas punto. But remember, silence doesn't mean you freeze your heart. It means you choose the right place to share. There are people who deserve your story. Family, close friends, kind communities. And there are places where you don't need to open up, because they only want to see you weaken so they can feel better. Maturity is knowing the difference. Phase 5. Absolute standards. You don't fail because you lack talent. You fail because you accepted a psychological compromise. Your standards are too low. Decay isn't a strategy. It's a disease that spreads from loosened discipline. Everything around you is designed to numb you. Automatic heating, delivery services, non-stop entertainment. Everything is designed to soften you, to soothe the necessary shadow inside you, the part that craves conquest. This is the opium of comfort. In this world, discipline isn't a virtue. It's rebellion. You must declare war on convenience. When you hold yourself to an absolute standard, you automatically become a mirror reflecting the mediocrity of everyone around you. Your existence challenges their excuses. They don't hate your success. They hate the truth that you exposed, the fear and laziness hiding inside them. This is a psychological defense mechanism. Projection. You must be ruthless with your time. Time is the only resource you cannot regenerate. Guard it like a dragon guards gold. Discipline creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. The air at the top is thin. That's because very few people have lungs strong enough to breathe at that altitude. Climb up there. And when you climb, remember, absolute standards aren't only about being above others, but about living up to yourself and becoming a support for others. A disciplined person is often also dependable. They keep their word, they're on time, they show up when needed. That is how communities are built, not by grand promises, but by small, steady presence. Phase 6. The death of the old self. This is the moment of judgment, the hardest part of any process of building power. This is you holding a funeral for yourself. You must kill the version of you that needs to be liked. The version that constantly bows to the hunger for external approval. That version is a spiritual slave, driven by the primal fear called ostracism. You must close the door on old mistakes, old wounds, old shame. They are chains if you keep clinging to them. You are in a relentless inner war with the old self. If you don't destroy him decisively, he will destroy your future. He is the embodiment of status quo bias, the tendency to accept mediocrity because mediocrity feels safe and familiar. When things get hard, he will whisper in your ear, "Just rest a little." He is the voice of the limbic system fighting the discipline of the prefrontal cortex. You must be ruthless. This is the ultimate test of will. Your change is a silent indictment of their stagnation. It triggers crab mentality in them. They will try to pull you down with criticism, with fake concern. They hate the mirror you hold up. And on the other side of that death is rebirth. A new version of you. Leaner, more ruthless, faster. A version that operates on pure reason, not emotional chaos. This new self is frightening. It should make you shiver. Just a little. It should. The frequency of sovereignty. When you walk into a room, understand that you're not only carrying a physical body. You carry a frequency. The frequency of complete self-possession. The crowd will instinctively make way. They will yield priority to you. They can't name the feeling, but their deepest survival instinct recognizes you are not someone to be played with. This is silent difference. They are responding to the total absence of fear and vulnerability in you. When you commit to this iron discipline, the noise stops. The persistent anxiety buzzing in the background of your life suddenly goes quiet. Why? Because anxiety isn't a random glitch. It is evidence of cognitive dissonance. Discipline is the proof of your capability. It closes the gap between who you are and who you want to be. When you live with discipline, you have nothing to hide. You achieve congruence. This transforms you from passive prey into an active builder. You stop fearing the future, because you are actively constructing it. And more importantly, you stop fearing other people. That confidence creates an invisible barrier. Your enemies won't dare cross. This is the peak of true power. You are no longer controlled by your own fear or other people's shallow opinions. You become completely free. This is lonely freedom. It is the power of the wolf on the hill, looking down at the flock crowded in the pen. Your discipline is your truth. It is the only asset that is fully yours. Non-transferable. They can take everything, but they cannot take your self-discipline. It is your fortress. It is a throne no one can overthrow. The war is getting softer. The world is getting louder and more chaotic. This is your strategic advantage. When they weaken, you must harden. When they seek comfort, you must seek the edge. You will frighten them, not because you try to intimidate, but because you are a mirror effect, showing them everything they were too cowardly to become. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them be afraid. You have work to do. This road is cold. This road is steep. And you must walk it alone. The old self is dead. Now go build a new one. And if you want to bring this into real life, today, choose one small but decisive action, something you've been delaying for a long time, and do it cleanly, kindly, with no one needing to know. Then tomorrow, do one more. After enough days, you won't need anyone talking to you about motivation anymore, because you will have become the person you can rely on. And when you can rely on yourself, you will have more to give, calm, certainty, and a kind of presence that makes others want to live better too, because they can see it's real.